Hey, my friend, good evening. It is, what is it, Tuesday afternoon, 20 April. I can't even believe I'm saying that. April the 20th, 2021. It's about 6:45 in the evening, and I'm coming at you because Harvey and Lewis are out exploring the property somewhere, and Lisa is in San Antonio hugging our grandson, Riker, and all of our kids and grandkids there. Scarlett and Georgie are there, of course, and our son, Josh, his beautiful wife, Amber, and our incredible daughter Katie and her husband Nate, and tomorrow is Katie. It's her birthday. Happy birthday, Katie. I love you very much. And if you're out there and you want to give Katie a shout, she's an amazing young lady with two beautiful kids and an amazing husband, Nate, who you've read about if you've read my books. And tomorrow's her birthday. So we love you very much, Katie, and we are grateful that God put you in our lives. Okay, so this is kind of a tweener episode, okay? My incredible web designer, Vicky Nova, who we call Supernova, Vicky gave us, or sent me an email yesterday, actually, and she's been working on the way the podcast page on the website is displayed and kind of syncing up between Podbean, the hosting app, and my website, and syncing up how all that stuff is. And she went through 138 episodes of the podcast and fixed a bunch of stuff and did all kinds of work yesterday. So if you like my podcast, thank Vicky Nova for all the technical work that she does to make it amazing. But she found 8 episodes that were old You Start Today episodes that happened in 2018 when we were in Wyoming, 2018 and 19. We were in Wyoming. And what happened to those 8 episodes is they were You Start Today episodes, but they hit that gap between 2015 when we were recording and living in Alabama, and then we moved, and there was this long gap, and I started up again when we were living in a rented house in Casper, and I started up, and then life got all kinds of crazy busy, and the hospital got nuts, and some of the other neurosurgeons in Wyoming that had been there left, and I ended up being the only neurosurgeon really doing trauma call for a huge part of the state of Wyoming for a long time. I was taking call all the time, and I was writing. I've seen the interview, and it basically just, not to make too many excuses, because I know Lisa is out there, one of our scrub techs, Lisa, every time I don't do an episode on time, it says, hey, don't make excuses, just record. Thank you for that. It's true. Don't make excuses, just work. Anne Lamott said one time to a group of writers, Andrew Peterson wrote this in his book, Anne Lamott said, the best thing you can do as a writer is to quit not writing your book. Just stop it. Quit not writing it. That's the same thing with podcasting. You just got to get after it. But anyway, so I found these 8 episodes that got stranded because here's what happened. They were hosted on Libsyn, which is the company I used to use to host my podcast. And they were supposed to be imported and launched automatically when we switched from Libsyn to Podbean. But there was, I guess because of some dating issues that I did when I set those episodes up, just like the 4 episodes last week and the week before that I posted for you that were old, that got somehow expired. These got stranded out there, and they were visible on the website, but they wouldn't play, and they were not visible on Podbean, and they were visible on Libsyn, but they didn't go anywhere. So they were just sort of stranded. So there's 8 episodes out there that I need to get back to you, and the only way I can do it is to relaunch them through Podbean. And so typically we're using the You Start Today episodes as extra content, as value for the patrons who are supporting us to bring this podcast to you ad-free. And so we're bringing online slowly but surely all that old content, and everything past the newest 100 episodes of the Dr. Lee Warren podcast are going out to the patrons only as a way, and they get special once a month extra episodes that nobody else gets too, along with transcripts and some other things. But because the patrons are doing something to help bring this about and support the work, we've been giving them extra stuff. Only fair, right? And they're amazing. So thank you to the patrons. But these 8 episodes, I looked through them, and they're just incredibly relevant. And so I'm going to bring them online for everybody for a little while, and then we'll pull them back off and just make them available to the patrons. Right now, nobody can get to them anyway. So I feel like some of them, especially the first one we're about to talk about, would add some immense value for lots of people. So the old You Start Today podcast, episode 64, was called What Happens When You Say You'll Do Anything. And that turns out to be super relevant. We just went through it again. We first encountered Jennie Allen's book, Anything, which after reading it and praying about it and saying to God, hey, we'll do anything you call us to, the next thing you know, we're moving to Wyoming. And then the same thing happened in the late part of 2019, early 2020, when we ended up with this unbelievable opportunity to come to Nebraska. It was one of those anything moments when you submit yourself to God's will and you pray, your prayers become, what do you want from me, God? It's amazing what he'll do. So be careful with this anything prayer. It's a dangerous one. So we're going to call these the Wyoming tapes. There's 8 of them. I'm going to just sprinkle them in for you as extra content in the next week or two, 2 or 3 weeks probably, that I'll add in between normal episodes. And then after they've been out a month or so, I'll pull them back for just the patrons. But to get them while you can, the Wyoming tapes, episode 1 of the Wyoming tapes today is going to be what happens when you say you'll do anything to God. So we're going to talk about that. What happens when you tell God you'll do anything? And we're going to start today. And before I start Tommy Walker's music, I want to just tell you this. In the episode, you're going to hear me saying stuff about it being 2018 and what might happen in 2018 or 19. And you might hear me mention some links. And the thing about the internet is a link that was good and perfectly valid and worked just fine in 2018 might not work now. So you might hear a link that doesn't work. You might hear a reference to something that I say is going to happen and you can't figure out if it happened or not because it was 4 years ago, right? So remember when you're listening to old content that some of the stuff I talked about in that may not be possible, available, or relevant today, but the gist of it is, and the content certainly is. So just remember that if you hear me say a web address and you try to go to it, it doesn't work, please don't send me an email and say, hey, that link doesn't work. I don't have any control over that if somebody shut their website down or whatever. But if there's something you need help with, let me know and I'll try to find it for you, okay? So anyway, today, Wyoming Tapes Volume 1, just for fun, I'm bringing this to you, and I think it'll add some value to think about the idea of what happens when you tell God that you'll do anything, and what happens, friend, when you start today. Hey, I'm so glad to have you listening this evening. You don't hear me say that very often, friend. I'm Dr. Lee Warren, and I live in Nebraska in the United States of America with my unbelievable and just perfect wife, Lisa Warren, and the super pups, Harvey and Lewis, who are currently running around the yard with the wing of a sandhill crane. I'm going to have to go take care of that in a few minutes. I don't know where they got that. Probably a coyote. I'm a neurosurgeon and an author, and I'm here to help you harness neuroscience, the power of your brain, faith, the power of your spirit, and good old common sense to help you lead a healthier, better, happier life. Listen, friend, you can't change your life until you change your mind, and I'm here to help you learn the art of self-brain surgery. To get that done, you can get the show notes and more on my website at wleewarrenmd.com, and if you like the show, please subscribe and share it with your friends. We're in 75 countries all over the world. If you click those 3 dots on your Podbean or whatever app you listen to it on, you will find the opportunity to share. Please do so. We're coming at you soon with the Infinitely Happier app. It's going to be a positive social media environment for everybody in this community. Connect. You got to be on the newsletter, though, to get the app. So wleewarrenmd.com/newsletter is how you're going to find out and be among the first people to be part of the Infinitely Happier app that's coming soon. Hey, I'm Dr. Lee Warren. I'm here to help you change your mind so you can change your life. Let's get after it. You Start Today, the Dr. Lee Warren podcast for real life change, episode 64. What happens when you say you'll do anything? Hey, my friend, welcome back to You Start Today. Holy cow, it's been 2 years since I released a new episode of this show. Seriously, the last episode was December of 2015. And last time I signed off the show with this quote, I can't wait to talk to you next week. Boy, I had no idea, though, what was about to happen in my life. You see, sometimes our plans don't play out the way we think they will. Let's back up to December 2015 when I released YST063, Mission Creep. I recorded that episode in the basement studio of our old house on Covington Ridge in Auburn, Alabama. My plan for the next week was to release YST64, which I was going to call History Poems. I'll get to that one eventually. But even before I got downstairs to record that episode, something amazing happened. To make a long story short, Lisa and I had read a book called Anything by Jennie Allen. We got a job offer we couldn't refuse. We moved from Alabama to Wyoming, and we've been on a bare-knuckle adventure ride with God ever since. Shortly after we accepted the job offer, we packed up our stuff, and my studio equipment made it into boxes that didn't get unpacked for almost 2 years. But hey, Beautiful Feet Studio is back now. I'm out of excuses, even though I have a cold this week, and it's time to get after it for 2018. The funny thing is, despite not having a new episode released in 2 years, people are still downloading this show about 100 times a day, and it's been downloaded in 28 countries in the past 2 months. So the You Start Today message is still resonating with people. And that's what motivated me to restart the podcast. The fact that people all over the world are still rallying to the You Start Today cry to get serious about becoming healthier, feeling better, and being happier, becoming serious about real life change. But remember, you can't change your life until you change your mind. And it's not brain surgery, and I should know, but it's pretty close. In this episode, we're going to take a hard look at what happens when you tell God you'll do anything to find a better plan for your life. Lisa and I did that, and our story is pretty amazing, and yours will be too, but you better get ready, because when you say, I'll do anything to God, you never know where he'll take you. But when God calls you into something big, he doesn't wait around for you. He wants you to start today. Welcome to You Start Today, the weekly podcast for real life change. If you're ready to become healthier, feel better, and be happier in your mind, body, spirit, work, and relationships, keep coming back every week and every day. Start today. I'm Dr. Lee Warren, a brain surgeon / writer who knows that life is harder than brain surgery. I've been on the ropes, but I've learned the secrets of not just surviving the war of life, but how to thrive too. And you can, but you have to start today. You can get the show notes and more on my website at www.wleewarrenmd.com/064. Hey, you can't change your life until you change your mind. Sometimes you need a brain surgeon to help you do that, and I'm your guy. So let's go.
This is Max Lucado, author and pastor. You're listening to You Start Today with my friend Dr. Lee Warren. If you want to become healthier, feel better, and be happier, you start today.
Hey, let me ask you a question. What happens when you promise God that you'll do anything? Well, it's a new year. 2018 is here, and it's fresh and awesome. It's brimming with possibilities. It's going to be the best year ever. But maybe it doesn't feel that way to you. Maybe you woke up today wondering if anything will ever change for you. Maybe this year feels like all the rest, and you're trying to figure out your next move. Or you're starting to think that there's no reason to believe anything big can happen in your life. Maybe. But let me tell you something, my friend. It's a new year. And no matter what the past has looked like for you, it can be different in the future. How can I say that so confidently, you might ask? Well, there are two main reasons. Number one, a huge factor in how we approach our days is how we feel. When we feel bad, we have a negative outlook on things, and we're much less likely to take chances, engage in new behaviors, and dream big. But when we feel good, we're more hopeful, we're more excited, more able to believe that positive changes are possible for us. And neuroscience research is absolutely clear that the biggest determinant of how you feel is how you think. Let me say that again. The biggest determinant of how you feel is how you think. In other words, if we can change our thinking, we can change our emotional state, and in so doing, we can literally change what's possible for our lives. Now, just a word to my Christian friends. I'm not talking about this name it and claim it gospel that some preachers talk about. I don't believe that. I've talked about it before on the show. Name it and claim it, I don't think is consistent with Scripture. It's not real. And we can argue about that if you want. Send me an email, lee@drleewarren.com. But that's not what I'm talking about in this episode. And I'm also not talking about this new age notion that you can make the universe give you success just by having a positive attitude. I am, though, talking about the absolute neuroscience fact that when you change your thinking, you change your neurochemistry, you change your emotional state and your attitude and your behavior. And those things, my friend, will inevitably lead you to more opportunity to change your life. In other words, as your friend the brain surgeon always says, you can't change your life until you change your mind. And this type of thing is essentially self-brain surgery. Now, before we go to the second reason that I am so sure that 2018 can be your best year ever, let me clear up one thing. You might be a skeptic. You might be a non-believer. You might even be a person who just doesn't really think much about spiritual things, and that's okay. In fact, several of my best friends think I'm a little nutty for being a Christian. But let me tell you why I believe what I believe. If you want the long answer, then check episode 24 of this podcast, www.wleewarrenmd.com/024. That episode's called You Bet Your Life, Faith versus Atheism. That's the long answer. I laid it all on the line about why I believe what I believe. But the short answer is this. As a person who spends every day looking at the amazingly well-designed human nervous system, there is no way it can be an accident. Down to the smallest subcellular molecular level, there is incredible detail and design in how you are wired. It can't be an accident. I just can't believe that it's an accident. And I've seen way too many impossible things happen through prayer to doubt it anymore. You can check out my first book, A Peek Under the Hood, A Brain Surgeon Looks at Life, for more on that. The other reason I'm so sure that 2018 can be different for you is this. Number 2, it's a promise from God. That's right. Jeremiah 29:11 says it plainly. God has a plan for you, a plan to bless you, a plan to prosper you and not to harm you, a plan to give you hope and a future. It's right there in the Word of God. So let me tell you a story that'll set the stage for you to begin to believe for yourself that 2018 or any year you might be hearing this can be your best year ever. And really, not to lay blame, but it's really all Lisa's fault. Seriously, it all started because of a Bible study that she did and then invited me to do with her. We'd figured out that we needed a new long-term plan. In about 2010, since the Affordable Care Act, or also known as Obamacare, passed and became the law of the land, it became increasingly obvious to us that the government intended to make it just about impossible for doctors to be in solo or small group practices like we were. I really believe that one of the purposes of that law was to funnel all the providers into larger groups so they could be more easily controlled for price purposes, and et cetera. But that's a debate for another day, too. But just like Netflix made it impossible for your neighborhood video store to afford to stay in business, government regulation just about made it impossible and significantly unaffordable for small clinics like ours to survive. And so even though our practice was busy and we were successful and even growing, we both knew, Lisa and I, that we couldn't work 100 hours a week forever and that our lives were way out of balance. And we knew that God wanted more from us than to work ourselves into old age. Then Lisa discovered this book, Jennie Allen's Anything, The Prayer That Unlocked My God and My Soul. Please read it. You'll thank me later. We read it, we prayed through it, we tried to see what God had to say to us through it, and we realized what was wrong. We were working too much, listening too little, too busy to hear that God was telling us to slow down, pay attention, find balance, and seek Him first. It became crystal clear that we were not where God intended for us to be. Sure, we'd achieved a high level of success in Auburn, but the cost was just too much. It was taking a toll on our family and our faith. And we realized we'd been striving so hard to control our lives by working harder and harder, despite the signs that the new law and our local hospital's leadership were not conducive to a solo practice neurosurgeon continuing to be highly successful. We were so far out of balance, we didn't even know how to fix it. And we kept coming back to the only thing that made sense, Jennie Allen's words in the book, Anything. Listen to this quote. Quote, "We want to earn the feeling that we're okay. We want to climb ladders and have everyone tell us how proud they are and how much we deserve everything good, so we can nod and smile as we agree. If we're really extra bad people, like prostitutes or the men just out of prison, then grace seems like the best thing we've ever heard of. But for the good kids, meaning people who are trying hard to live a life like God wants, it feels a little different to think we may need God in a desperate way. When God gives us grace, He is also taking something from us. He takes our control. True grace threatens our control, but it gives something too. It gives something better." Now, if you've read my book, No Place to Hide, you'll know that I have a long history of struggling with trying to control everything. It's funny how we have to learn the same lessons over and over, but by July 2015, Lisa and I both hit a wall of realizing that things were never going to be okay in Auburn. And that was something that had to change. And so we took Jennie Allen's advice, and we prayed, God, we want to serve you. We want to have our lives be about you. We will do anything you want, anything. And then we waited and waited and waited for God to answer. And boy, did he. When it all came down, we felt like Abraham in that Bible story when God said, go and move, but he didn't say where. And Abraham just packed up his stuff and started walking. He started obeying, and he moved. And that's what God did. He told us to go. We heard the call to go, but we didn't know what that was about yet. And we just kept listening and kept wondering and kept waiting. But we told him we would do anything to please him, live for him, serve him, anything. Then when I was absolutely frustrated with our practice and the struggle against increasing regulation and a hospital administration that was never going to try to help make it better, Lisa reminded me of a letter we'd received from a physician recruiter asking if I had any interest in looking at jobs in other parts of the country. I sent one email. I said, I'd be willing to move for the right opportunity. I also sent in my CV, which is the fancy doctor word for resume. In 24 hours, I had invitations to interview in over 30 hospitals, literally from coast to coast, Maine to Florida, California to Washington State, Texas to North Dakota. The first place we interviewed was Casper, Wyoming. And within a few hours, Lisa and I both knew it was for us. We prayed hard about it, and over the next weekend, we canceled the rest of our trips. And 2 years later, here we are in Wyoming, a new place, a new beginning, and the balance we've always known God wanted from and for us. What would that look like in your life? Wyoming has brought us new opportunities to minister, be ministered to, serve and grow and help and learn. Wyoming's been like a promised land for us, a place where we're set free from the prison of working harder to work harder, the prison of striving just to strive some more. We've been delivered from a never-ending self-employed opportunity to spend all our waking hours trying to find more time to do more work. We've been embraced and accepted here more than we ever imagined, and we're both involved in major leadership already. Within a few months, Lisa was asked to be on the board of the hospital's charitable foundations, made a huge impact in this community already. And recently, I was asked to join the hospital's board of directors. My practice is very successful here, and we've made deep friendships with people we know will be equally yoked with us for the rest of our lives. We're happier than ever, all because we said we'd do anything for God. When you feel like you don't know what your life's about, where you're headed, why you're working harder and finding less peace, maybe it's time for you to start saying, I'll do anything you want, God, anything. Hear me, friend. We make our plans, we do our best, we strive and toil and work hard, but sometimes we can find ourselves in a situation where it's just not working. But I promise you, God has a plan for your life that's better than your plan. Proverbs 19:21 says it like this: people can make all kinds of plans, but the ones that happen will be the Lord's. When you're tired of working hard and not seeing the results you want, maybe it's time to make a change. Tell God you'll do anything. Maybe he won't move you 2,000 miles, or maybe he will. But I promise, if you ask him, tell him you'll do anything, he'll answer you. He always does. Start asking him. We did, and on this new year, we're in a new place with a new life and a new start. And it can happen for you too, I promise. Sometimes you just have to tell God you'll do anything. Maybe that's all he's been waiting for. It's a brand new year, my friend. What better time to make the change your heart is telling you it needs to make? Even if you're listening to this later, after New Year's, why can't today be the new day you've been working so hard to create for your life, your family, and your future? Maybe it's time for you to decide you'll do anything to be where God wants you to be. Listen, you can't change your life until you change your mind. And sometimes in order to change your mind, you have to decide that your own plan might not be the best plan for your life. Sometimes you have to be willing to do anything. The answers don't come, though, until you ask. The answers are in the asking, but you have to be ready for the answers. You have to be ready for anything. You can do it just like Lisa and I did. You can do anything, but you have to start today. Hey, thanks for listening. The Dr. Lee Warren podcast is listener supported. You can check out patron.podbean.com/Dr. Lee Warren, patron.podbean.com/Dr. Lee Warren for all the info about that. Patrons and partners get free books, transcripts, partner-only special episodes every month, and the entire back catalog of the You Start Today podcast and every episode of Dr. Lee Warren that's more than 100 episodes old. So patrons get a lot of value. We try to make it massively valuable for you to help us spread this good work all around the world and keep it ad-free and growing. And please subscribe to the show, friend, so you never miss an episode. And go to the website, wleewarrenmd.com, for more information about my letter, my show, my books, everything. And stay tuned for the Infinitely Happier app. The theme music for the show is Water into Wine by Tommy Walker. Tommy Walker and his great folks out there at Tommy Walker Ministries, they're just doing amazing things. They're providing churches and worship leaders all over the world free content to help them develop worship leaders, develop the band, provide all kinds of resources and just great work for the kingdom that they're doing. And Lisa and I support them, have for a long time. And check it out. Go to TommyWalkerMinistries.org. You can get this music and everything that they do. You can get it for free just to consider supporting them. TommyWalkerMinistries.org. And if you need prayer, don't forget to go to the prayer wall, wleewarrenmd.com/prayer. I'll be back at you with a normal full-length episode soon. In the meantime, enjoy the Wyoming tapes, my friend. You can't change your life until you change your mind, and you have to start today. I'm Dr. Lee Warren. I'll talk to you soon. God bless you. Have a great day.